Hey guys, Mr. J here. Welcome back to another Frostborn video. So we have a new season, which is season 34, Runaway Alfar. And in this season here, we have a new item, which is the Talisman. So in today's video, I'm going to touch on the Talisman. The first thing that you should know about the Talisman is that it's a new type of equipment that can be used instead of charms. So Talisman consists of a settings and a gemstone. Those two words are key. I'm going to show you guys in a bit. But putting those together, you receive a unique combination to suit your needs. So the Talisman is a custom piece for a unique user. You set the setting, well, you choose a setting and you choose which gemstone you want to use. So the gemstone is based off, what weapon and what class you want to use. So that's really crucial. So based on, your type of task, for example, if you want to do PvP or PvE, depends on the situation that you want to use this talisman for. You could suit your needs with it, and also which class that you prefer to use. For example, you have persons that love to use Thrasher, you have persons that love to use Shaman, the Werewolf, you have persons that like to use Desert Mage, Valkyries, Sylvian, War Mage, whatever class type there is that you love, we have a talisman for that class. So that's one of the beautiful thing about it. And it's also more durable to have the talisman. It's kind of, it's not overpowerful. It's not the best as well, because I feel as though the talismans are better than not the talisman, but I feel as though the charms are better than the talisman here. But you guys can be the judge. Let me know in the comment section what you think. But for example, we can make the talismans here. This is the workbench. To making the talisman, you need a settings, as I said before, and you need a gemstone. And once you combine these two together, for example, let me show you. You put the gemstone, you put the settings, you wait. You can cancel it if you want, if you change your mind. But you wait, and then it creates a talisman here. But I'm not going to make a talisman as yet until I show you guys the basics that you should know. So the first way, you might be wondering, how do you get these settings and how do you get the gemstone? The first way is speaking to Umrek. You can get these settings. You can see here we have different types of settings: aggressors, gatherers, and gorment. And you can see as well we get the random talisman settings as well in these sections here. And if you continue to look over here, this is where you get the random talisman gemstone. So these two basics are needed to make the talisman. So you can see right here, this is what you'll need to receive enough points to get the large Umrek pack. You'd have to go to both the PvE or PvP zone to get the large and small bracelets here. Once you bring these bracelets, you add up the points to 120. Once you get 120, you'll be able to get one of these crates. And you can collect two of these crates, and then you gotta wait for the timer to refresh. Then you're able to get another crate. And once you get another crate, open the crate and you'll randomly get one of this here. So you got to keep in mind as well, it's based off luck. It's based off luck to get the random talisman settings. It's based off luck to get the random talisman gemstones here. All right, so another way to get the gemstones and the settings, you can get the gemstones throughout the season. You can see at level 8, you get the alchemist gemstone. At level 19, we get the shield gemstone. If you continue down, we get another gemstone at level 62, summoning gemstone. Continue down, level 68, vampire's gemstone. Continue down right here, we have the empowerment gemstone. And if you continue down right here, we get at level 93, the recharging gemstone. So that's another gemstone. And a way to get the settings as well and the gemstone is from the seasonal chest here. So if you see in the seasonal chest, we get the gemstones and we also get the random talisman. Now I think we're going to be able to fish for this chest here either through an event, or we'll be able to fish throughout the season for these chests here. I'll test that theory a little bit later, and I'll let you guys know in another video if you're able to actually get these chests to then get the settings and the gemstone. Another thing to note as well in regards to the gemstones, we have some rare gemstones that are not included within this section here. You can see we have the destruction, blessing, keep your mind on these two red ones here. the Destruction Gemstone and the Blessed Gemstone, or the Blessed Gemstone. This one here is the Alchemist Gemstone. So it's not listed in this section here. You only get it from the season here. Now maybe, throughout the gameplay, and because these are a new concept added to the game, I figured they probably added them back some other way, but currently they're in the season here. So of course you can get these gemstones in the season. So for example, we have the Alchemist one here. So when the talisman accumulates 150 power, your attacks with a flask become stronger for 10 seconds. There is a 25% chance that the target will receive additional 150% damage with the flask over time. So this is important to note, right? So for the gemstones to be activated, you'd have to reach a certain requirement. So the requirement to activate a 25% chance that the target will receive additional 150 flask damage, the requirement is 150 talisman power that's accumulated. So you have the settings which give you the power. The settings give you the power. It also sets the requirements as well. For example, the way to get 150 talisman power will be determined by these settings here. So if you click the season pass here, so for example, the aggressor settings, if you use the aggressor settings, if you deal any damage to enemies, so that will be mobs in zone, that will be player. So if you deal damage, then you'll accumulate talisman power and you'll get 3 talisman power. And once you have 3 talisman power and you keep doing damage to enemies, that 3 adds up over time. Then once you hit 150, then that's when your flask get a window for 10 seconds, a 25% chance to receive additional 150 flask damage over time. So that only lasts for 10 seconds. It doesn't last forever while using the talisman. It lasts for 10 seconds. Within that 10-second windows, that is when you're able to, if you're in PvP in that 10-second windows, that's the best time to do damage to player. And once you have done damage to player and that 10-second is over, you'll go back to your regular damage that you were getting with, whatever you have equipped, right? You'll be getting the regular damage. Once you're getting that regular damage, once you keep doing damage again, it repeats itself. The requirements or the talisman doing the damage, right? Because that's the settings. Doing the damage, it stacks up over time again and then hits 150. Boom, you're able to do that extra damage again with the flask, and it repeats itself over and over. Another thing you want to keep in mind as well, every time you die with the talisman, you lose your ability. Every time you activate the talisman skill or the talisman power, every time you activate it for whatever seconds, you lose 1 durability. And this keeps happening over time. The beautiful thing about it though, you get like approximately, for example, I did make a talisman here. You get approximately like 350 talisman durability. That's a lot. So you got to literally die 350 times, or you'd have to literally use the talisman skill 350 times for it to then break. That's the way it breaks. And yeah, so you can see, for example, here, this is the talisman that I made. So it's a sharpshooter's talisman here. So this only activates with a bow or crossbow. So dealing damage with a bow or crossbow accumulates 5 talisman power. When the talisman accumulates 150 power, my movement speed increases by 20% and my attack speed increases by 20% for 7 seconds. So only within that 7-second windows, that's the only time my damage and my speed, attack speed, and my movement speed increases. Only within that 7 seconds. After that 7 seconds, it's no longer a thing where I have the power or I have the boost. So it just gives you boosts, throughout PvPs or PvE or whatever you want to do, right? Only gives you that boost throughout the thing here. Now this is of course a lot of things to touch on, right? But let me show you guys the other gemstones here, because there's a bunch of gemstones. So for any shield weapons that you have, you can see that this gemstone increases the damage you can block by blocking damage by 15%. Level 62, the summon gemstone. So for the summon gemstone, it works with any class to be specific. It doesn't have a specific class. But when the talisman accumulates 200 power, it summons a magic double that deals 10% of your damage for 7 seconds. So that's pretty good. That's going to be helpful in PvP. And not to mention as well, if you scroll down, have another talisman, the Empowerment Talisman. So when the talisman accumulates 200 power, class spells deal 20% more damage for 5 seconds. And for this one here, we have the Recharging Gemstone. When the talisman accumulates 200 power, it reduces class spell cooldown by 3 seconds. So you can see that this can be used with any class here to reduce your spell cooldown. So if you want to spam, you know, your spells and have, you know, gaps where you're able to use this spell a bit more often, this is going to be a good one. It recharges, you know, your classes here. So another thing to note as well, these different gemstones that we have. So we have different types here, of course. As I said, we have the common, we have the rare, and we have the very rare gemstones. All right, so for the random talisman gemstones, we have the Taunt gemstone. When the talisman accumulates 150 power, all enemies in 3 radius attack you for 3 seconds. So that's the Taunt skill. Want to keep in mind as well, all these talisman here that are here, it works with any class. Once you have it equipped, you'll gain special skills and you'll gain some of the class skills as well. For example, from Sorcerer, Thrasher, but I'll touch on each of these one here individually and let you guys know as well here. For example, we have the Healing gemstone. When the talisman accumulates 100 power, instantly recovers 10% of the maximum health. So whatever your max health is, once this is activated after you've gotten 100 power, once you charge this up to 100, what will happen is that whatever your health is, you will regain 10% off that maximum health, whatever it is at that time. We have the Boost gemstone here. So when the talisman accumulates 150 power, your movement speed increased by 20%, your attack speed by 20% for 7 seconds here. So once you get that 150 power, your movement speed will then be faster. For example, this will be good with Hunter. For example, that will be good with Hunter for your attack speed to be increased, for your speed to be increased as well. Now, this is not specific for any class. This works with all classes. So for me to say, yeah, that's kind of controversial for me to say, oh, it works better with Hunter. I mean, it works better with all classes, to be honest. So you always want to get extra movement speed. You always want to get more attack speed as well. So this works with all classes here. For the defense gemstone, so when the talisman accumulates 150 power, your armor is increased by 20% for 7 seconds. So it's just a 7-second window, and after you gotta build it back up again based on the settings that you have, and activate that skill again here. So for the Fear gemstone, when the talisman accumulates 150 power, cast Fear in 3 unit radius. The effect lasts for 3 seconds. We have the Dispel gemstone. So this is a very rare gemstone. This one is going to be good as well. You can see when the talisman accumulates 150 power, it dispels all negative effects and temporarily protects you from them. And it also dispels that negative effects as well, but temporarily though. And you can see except disarming. So it does not work with Ripper. For example, Ripper's negative effect, this disarming skill, it does not dispel it, and it cannot, protect you from the Ripper skill. So we have this as well right here, which is a Recovery gemstone. When the talisman accumulates 50 power, the healing you receive become 100% more effective for only 7 seconds. So yeah, won't be lasted a long time. There's so much you can do in 7 seconds, Roy. So you gotta be mindful as well in PvP. We have the Disarming gemstone. So when the talisman accumulates 150 power, your next attack within 3 seconds, that disarms the enemies for 5 seconds here. We also have the Silence gemstone. When the talisman accumulates 150 power, your next attack within 3 seconds, silence the enemies for 5 seconds. We have the Weakness gemstone. This is a tier 3 one. When the talisman accumulates 150 power, in 3 seconds, your next attack weakens the enemies by reducing their damage by 20%, reduces their armor by 20%, and the efficiency of healing received by 20% as well. We also have the Cure Gemstone. So when the talisman accumulates 50 power, which is quite simple, quite short, 20, 50 power is easy to get. So once you get 50 power, using a gadget for 5 seconds will restore you and your allies within radius 15% of their maximum health. So 15% of your health will be increased if you have this Cure Gemstone here. So for the Blessed Gem right here, so when the Talisman accumulates 150 power, casting a class spell for 5 seconds, additionally casting the Sorcerer's spell, the Blessed spell, within a 4-unit radius around the Sorcerer, a Blessing removes control effect from the Sorcerer's allies and increases the allies' damage by 25% for 5 seconds here. So this one works better with the Sorcerer in that case. Alright, so the next gemstone here is the Destruction Gemstone. When the Talisman accumulates 150 power, your next attack within 5 seconds, additionally deal 5 more damage. That's the Destruction one. So this one accumulates 100 power, it reflects 30% of the damage, but no more than 100. But yeah, we have the Evasive Gemstone. When the Talisman accumulates 200 power, increases your chance to evade incoming damage by 50%. So that's going to be pretty good. We have the Protection Gemstone. When the Talisman accumulates 200 power, it grants a damage barrier of 200% of your maximum health for 20 seconds here. So that's the Protection Gemstone. We have the Freya's Blessing. When the Talisman accumulates 200 power, cast the Witch Doctor spell, which is the Freya's Blessing. Magic Orb heals you and your allies by your allies, of course, that are nearby, for 80 and deals 80 damage as well to the enemies for 2 seconds. The orb then explodes, stunning the enemies and removing the knockdown effect from injured allies as well. We have the Stun Barrier Gemstone right here. So the Talisman accumulates 200 power. It casts the Thrasher spell, the Stun Barrier. So this one casts the Thrasher skill. So it stuns your attacker for 3.5 seconds. The barrier is active for 6 seconds. During this time, your movement speed is increased by 20%. And for the last one here, the Healer Gemstone. So when the Talisman accumulates 200 power, it casts the Healer spell, Freya's Wrath. So for this one here, a healing aura restores 25% of your health for the character and surrounding allies for 5 seconds. So those are the Talisman Gemstones. So we also have right here to touch on the random Talisman settings here. So for the first setting, which is the Warrior settings here, dealing damage with a heavy melee weapon accumulates 7 Talisman power. For the other one, which is Assassin settings, dealing damage with a dagger accumulates 7 Talisman power. Before we continue here, we want to keep in mind as well that you don't have to use the Assassin to have this settings here. Any dagger class, whether it be the Nosferatu, whether it be the Ripper, whether it be Rogue, Assassin, any dagger class, once you use a dagger, this will give you 7 Talisman power for every damage you deal. It's the same with the Warrior right here. Any Warrior class, once you deal melee damage, that gives you 7 Talisman power. If you continue here, Sharpshooter setting. So this deals damage. Once you deal damage with the bow, you get 5 Talisman power. That's currently what Talisman I have at the moment. That's what I have on. So we have the Mage settings. Dealing damage with a staff accumulates 5 Talisman power. And for this one here is the Alchemist settings. Dealing damage with a flask accumulates 5 Talisman power. For the Protector settings, receiving damage from the enemy's weapons accumulates 10 Talisman powers. So whatever class you're using, if you're getting hit by the enemy, you'll get 10 Talisman power. So that's for PvP, PvE as well. And for the Stoic settings here, so getting a stun accumulates 50 Talisman power. So if a person uses Stun Trap, Hammer, whatever stunt method they use, if it's Thrasher, this would work pretty good against Thrasher, and this would work against you know, because Thrasher, they'll have the sun barrier, they'll have sun traps, hammers. You get a bunch of talisman power from that. And from the combat mastery settings here, so casting class spell accumulates 30 talisman power. We have the support settings here, consuming potions or using gadgets accumulates 25% talisman power. For the controller settings, casting control effect on players accumulates 30 talisman power. We have the shaman settings, casting negative effect on the player accumulates 20% or 20 talisman power. For the traitor settings here, accumulates 10 talisman power. So those are both for all the random talisman settings here, and for the random talisman gemstone as well. Oh, I think we did not touch on the aggressor, which is, you know, dealing damage to enemies, accumulates 3 talisman power. Gatherers will be when chopping trees and breaking rocks, you then accumulate 10 power. And for the gourmand settings, consuming any food, you will get, you know, 5 talisman power. All right, so with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and open some of these random talisman settings here, and we're gonna open this right here, the random talisman gemstone as well. But let's go ahead and open the settings first. Let's just do that. Let's open the. So we got a couple of destruction, recovery, reflect. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and craft our special requirement, and then I'm gonna show you guys in zone how to activate this requirement here. So first, let me grab a bow, because we have one that is a bow. So we're gonna grab a bow, one that requires a bow. So for example, you can see here the sharpshooter talisman boosting. So once we deal damage with the bow, every shot we do, we accumulate 5 talisman power. And when the talisman accumulates to 150, right? So first one is the settings, which is damage with bow. And we have the gemstone power, which is when the talisman gets to 150, your movement speed will increase by 20% and your attack speed by 20% as well. So hopefully that makes it, you know, make sense. So we're going to use the destruction gemstone, which is once we accumulate 150 power, my next attack for 5 seconds deals more damage, right? So we'll see which we're going to use here in a moment. All right, so I think mostly I'm going to go for a talisman that has to do with dagger. So we're going to choose a setting that has to do with either damage to enemies and or dagger damage as well. So we have, if we have an assassin setting, we're going to use that because we currently have the Nosferatu. So based on your class pick that you have, that's what you'll set the settings, you know, specifically for what you want. So I think it's best to also save both of the gemstone and save the settings as well to suit which class that you want to use and how you want to get the, you know, the powers to then set the right foundation to then use your special skills. All right, so this is the assassin setting. So we're going to use the assassin settings right here. And let me choose another gemstone here to fit a perfect description. All right, so I feel as though I want to try the Fear gemstone here. So when the talisman accumulates 150 power, it casts Fear in a 3-unit radius. The effect lasts for 3 seconds. It only lasts for 3 seconds here. We're going to try this one here. So we're going to craft our own custom talisman. So that is one, right? That's for the assassin. That's for using dagger. And let me try something else here. I think I'm going to try the alchemist settings here. So dealing damage with a flask accumulates 5 talisman power. We're going to use this settings here. So we can use this with the werewolf. We can use it with the alchemist, the occultist as well, of course. And once you use more of the flask, we'll then get power. All right, so we're going to try with this one here, the destruction gemstone here. So I'm going to craft that as well. So we're just going to try these two. You guys already get the idea with, you know, crafting gemstones and stuff. So we're going to just craft these two. We're going to try these two here. And I also want to show you guys, because I have this one here. I want to show you guys that. So we have those two. And with the alchemist, we're gonna need the flask here. So let me grab a flask, if we have a flask. All right, we're currently at the red zone location here where there's more mobs, and we can actually show you guys things that we can do here. So I'm gonna go ahead and equip the Sylvian here, and we have the bow equipped. And as I said, we have the sharpshooter talisman here. So every time I shoot an enemy, boom, you can see we got 5 of the talisman power in the top left hand section here. Boom, boom, you can see with every hit. But it has to hit 150 for my skill to activate here. So that's 30, 45, boom, boom, 65, 70. So over time, it's going to accumulate. Now, there is a special thing you could do to get what you want to get. For example, if you're fighting a person, you want to wait until it's close to 150. Like, be mindful of this over here, the talisman power. Once it's 150, then you grab the player, and that window is then open to, you know, do the increased hits, or you wait until that that couple seconds is available to really get increased movement of speed. If you want to run away and use a speed pod as well while that it's activated. So there is a lot of ways you can think about it and be creative with these talisman here. Boom. Let's grab it up to... It's close to 150, you can see. Well, it's 40, and it's going to be 45, 46. Boom, it's bum. You know, just like that. Motor speed is activated here. And we then slow down after. See, yeah, that's a quick example there. So we're going to switch over to this right here. Well, this one here. The Assassin Talisman. So you can see deal damage with dagger, accumulate 7 talisman power. And so within a 3 radius, we'll get the fear skill activated. So I'm going to switch over to the Nosferatu here. Show you guys that talisman in action here. So we're going to kill the bear. Boom, boom, boom. 14. Go over to this. Boom. 42. 49. 48. 70. 91. 98. Has to be 150. So once it's at 150, I'm just going to go close to an enemy, and you guys are going to see the fear skill activated here. And you want to keep on as well. If you leave the zone, the talisman power will just, you know, will be removed, basically. So if you go into the tomb, if you change to a different location, it will then start over. So you got to build it again. 140, boom. I think I'm going to use... on this. Alright, so it is activated just now, but yeah, it has to be during the fight. You can see that the skill was activated there. So we're gonna switch over to the alchemist here, and we're gonna go to the tomb location with the alchemist. I said oculist, by the way, I mean occultist, bro. Literally. Alright. Boom. Boom. It's 30. It's 40. 45. 75. So what's the requirement? I basically forgot. So your next attack deals 5% damage. Gotta get it to 150. And what's the seconds in this as well here? The seconds is 5 seconds. Okay. All right.
All that for a drop of blood.
Boom. You can see that's a lot of damage here. 69, 39, I should say, not 69, 39. You can see I got, you know, that's a pretty, it's a pretty short window too. So as I said, it's not broken or anything. Yeah, it's not broken or anything. Spoilers, man. Spoilers to the Oculus. I keep saying Oculus. Whenever you guys hear me say Oculus, I mean occultist, bro. But yeah, I should touch on everything in the video here, and hopefully this was very beneficial, very educational and helpful. If this was very helpful, definitely smash like and subscribe as well to the channel. Comment down below to boost the algorithm, and appreciate y'all for the continued likes and support. Hopefully this video is beneficial here to you, man. And peace out, man. Stay blessed. Keep safe.